This isn't you. No, you haven't been the same since Mike died. Hiding behind someone else's face. Hoping you wouldn't feel the pain. While we're talking, do you have protection?
What, you mean like condoms?
Protection. Next time, let Carl take his pants down. Slip this in his thigh. Twist it so the wound won't close. Now go on, get out of here. I am the king.
Welcome to Back to the Frame Rate, part of the Weston Media Podcast Network, a weekly podcast discussing movie news, reviews, and recommendations. We just heard a clip from 1997's Face Off, a tie-in to this week's episode, where we'll be reviewing John Wick Chapter 4 and recommending some other films under the umbrella of Gun Fu. I am Nathan Schur, and with me as always are Sam Cole and Eli Escobar.
Hello.
Ooh, hi.
Nathan, it's a pleasure to be here, and might I add, it's amazing to have you back on Facebook.
Thank you. I was going to mention something a little later on. It's been a tumultuous couple weeks, but I'm back. And I'm not going to really burden our audience, who probably does not give one iota about my Facebook troubles. But I did weasel my way back onto Facebook. The Zuck has no idea that I'm back. Now he does, because he is an avid listener, I'm sure.
A visual metaphor for your Facebook disappearance and suddenly returning would be like Fellowship of the Ring when Gandalf falls into the canyon, but instead you jump back out after 20 minutes and are like, "Oh, that was awful."
And I spent the last. I got back on about 2 days ago, or maybe it was end of last week, and I've just been going through adding friends. But I realized that I'm going to be a little bit more picky about maybe the people that I'm friends with. I had maybe 1,200 contacts before, and I think I'm around 200 now. And I might just kind of end it there, because you find yourself realizing, do I really need to send a friend request to these people? I'm like, I don't talk to them really anymore. So
one of them may have been the culprit too. One of the 1,200 may have been the identity.
So I find myself with a shrinking circle of people that I probably only need to relate to or talk to. So it's an interesting situation that I'm in as I'm reaching out to people with these friend requests. Do I reach out to them? I haven't talked to them in 6 or 7 years, and they've been sitting in my little friend bin for so long. It's an interesting human experiment if I hit those buttons or not.
Mm.
So this has been a little social experiment with myself. Who do I reach back out to? In the meantime, I'm still emailing Facebook every single day to every single public email address that I have, begging them to restore my old account. But I wonder if, at what point do I just give up on that and just give myself into the new profile, hit that reset button, and just move forward. Let's move on beyond this, because this is not the way I wanted to start the show, because nobody really cares about any of this at all.
I have to say, Nathan, I was a little hesitant when I got that request, because I'm thinking, is this really Nathan or somebody pretending? And then I had to actually check.
You and 50 other people have emailed me or messaged me. Is this really you, Nathan? And I'm just like, I need to start copying and pasting. Yes, it's really me.
I burst into tears when I got your Facebook request. I was like, "Oh, I thought I was rid of that bastard."
But at least I can go back to being the admin of our Facebook group, which was so sad not being able to post anything about Back to the Frame Rate on our Facebook page, where our millions of followers are chomping at the bit, wondering what we're up to.
Must be frustrating, yeah.
Yes, it was. Anyways, so that was a little bit about me, what I've been doing. And since I'm already talking, I will get right into what I've been watching this week. And as you know, we're going to be reviewing. We're going to be reviewing John Wick Chapter 4 in a little bit. But, I figured a great way of getting myself prepped for this movie was to catch up on some old school John Woo. So what I did was I watched A Better Tomorrow, which is one of his earlier films from 1986. And this is one that I've never seen before. I know I've seen his more well-known films, The Killer, Hard Boiled, which are the ones that most people think of when they think of early John Woo. I'm really glad I got to see this because it's fascinating seeing Woo as a young filmmaker before he perfected the genre he would be synonymous for, that being gun fu. I like this film, but it's definitely rough around the edges. He would later perfect this on those other films I mentioned. Chow Yun-fat is in this one, and it's great seeing him become the Hong Kong action star before our eyes here. American action stars could learn a lot from him. He shoots 2 guns better than most action stars can shoot 1. Woo is so underappreciated here in the States. I know he got a shot in the 90s with, what was the Jean-Claude Van Damme movie? I forget. Hard Target. I think he did that one. Broken Arrow. Of course,
Broken Arrow, yes.
Face Off. But in this one here, he is simultaneously birthing a new genre of film, but also paying homage to his mentors, especially like Martin Scorsese and Brian De Palma. So this is a great entry point for any John Woo fan, gun fu fan, and I would highly recommend it. Not a perfect film, but I still say worth checking out if you're into this genre. So this is available on VOD. The other thing that I watched, I'll mention, is you'll laugh, Ellie. I think you'll appreciate this. You know how I think when our podcast first started, we both had started watching Shrinking. Well, I did catch up on it, and because it finished up season 1, I think just this past week, and I did come around in the show. I stuck with it. For a while, I didn't think I would. The first few episodes were not fully clicking with me, and this was especially due to Harrison Ford's performance. I was probably way too harsh on him. Ellie, did you finish the show?
No, I did not have a chance. I'm still Ted Lasso came back.
Yep.
To Apple, so I've been watching Ted Lasso, and so it's taking a back seat right now.
I don't blame you. I haven't actually started Ted Lasso yet because I wanted to finish Shrinking. As listeners probably know, it's the same creators that did both of these shows.
Mm-hmm.
Since it's taken a back seat, Ellie, because you're going to watch it, but it's taken a back seat, you could say that it shrunk.
So, anyways, with Harrison Ford, I was probably way too harsh on him. And as listeners of the show will probably get this reference, I was probably raw dogging him way too much.
What is raw dogging me? I've never heard that expression.
I don't want to talk about it. But this is
I'm going to have to look that up.
You don't want to. You have to go in Urban Dictionary, and you don't want to know. Anyways,
is it bad?
Let's move on. Anyways, Shrinking.
I'm gonna have to look at it. See, now I'm gonna look it up.
For all my early complaints, is another show that I felt really did stick the landing. It really did a great job dealing with the themes of grief and loss, and somehow balanced it with the idea of a workplace comedy. I think the reason why the show grew on me is because the chemistry between the cast, I think, really got better. My favorite are the couple that live next door, and they're played by Krista Miller and Ted McGinley. They steal every scene they're in, and I really want them to have their own show as a spinoff. I love them so much in this. The arcs of many of the characters are paid off, especially Harrison Ford's character. We learn why he's such a Mr. Grumpy, Sir Grumps-a-lot in this, a trait that drove me nuts in the first few episodes, but it's paid off later on when we get to know more and more why he is the way he is. The show has a lot of heart, and I think it does need to be watched by many. And I'm looking forward to season 2, actually. So that's the Shrinking season finale, and yeah, I really liked it. I stuck with it, Ellie.
Yeah,
After all my complaining.
And I thought I was going to be the one to see it first, but yeah,
I think you should finish it.
I will.
It gets even better. And I had a hard time those first 3 episodes, but it gets very emotional, and
okay.
it does.
All right, I'm gonna take that suggestion and go with it for sure this weekend.
Okay. So that's what I have been watching. So Sam, I think you've got something queued up you want to share that I'm excited to hear about. You watched. You always seem to bring up something that's out of left field.
This week, I would like to particularly focus my energy on a film entitled Crocodile Dundee 2,
a
1988 American sequel. And what's hilarious about it is I just bumped into it on television this week on HBO, and I'd only seen the third act of that movie like since childhood and just like little pieces. I've always enjoyed the first film. The first film's great. It's significantly better than this one. But I'd never seen the whole thing, and I'd only seen the third act, which if you haven't seen the rest of the movie, is kind of very slowly paced and makes no sense because it's just they're just in the Australian outback being hunted. But I went back and saw the whole movie this time, and I didn't even realize there's a whole New York portion of it at the beginning, which actually made me enjoy the film a lot more because the whole fun of Crocodile Dundee is like a fish out of water thing. And so it was cool to see him back in the New York element. And then when they're hunted by drug dealers, he takes her back to Australia to, be on his own ground while the drug dealers are sort of out of their element and try to hunt him in the woods. So it was better than I thought it was going to be. It's still, not a great, it definitely was not as big a hit as the first one and was not as well received, but I enjoyed it. And I'm actually glad that I finally saw the whole thing. So I like the film. That's probably the main movie that I saw this week. I have seen other things this week, but they're repeats of things that I've mentioned before because I have a tendency to watch things over and over again sometimes. But Crocodile Dundee D2 was entertaining.
I got to ask you, what is your stance on Crocodile Dundee in Los Angeles or the very, very maligned, the very excellent Mr. Dundee?
Crocodile Dundee in Los Angeles it's been so long since I've seen it. I saw it once, but too much time has gone by and it is so cheesy by comparison, and it's okay, and I guess it's fun to see the characters again, but him in LA being on a Star Tours bus does not compare to the magic of him as a fish out of water in New York. So I think it's very cheesy, not as good. And what was the other one that you mentioned? I hadn't even heard of that.
The very excellent Mr. Dundee.
I have not seen that.
Well,
what is that? Is that like a documentary?
Okay, so I've never seen this, and I just know that it's Paul Hogan playing Paul, and It has some tie into the Crocodile Dundee franchise, but I don't think it's a sequel to the Crocodile Dundee franchise. It's somehow, I don't really know much about it. I didn't know, you being the Crocodile Dundee fan of the group, if you had seen it.
hadn't even heard of it. Yeah.
It says in the IMDb description, Paul Hogan is reluctantly thrust back into the spotlight as he desperately attempts to restore his sullied reputation on the eve of being knighted. I don't know anything about this. I just remember when this came out, people were really making the poster is terrible.
When did it come out? What does it say? The year?
2020.
Oh my God! Wow. When was the Crocodile Dundee in L.A. in Hollywood? That was
2001. I was actually living in L.A. when that came out. I remember driving down Sunset Boulevard and all of the billboards were showing this.
Oh man, of course they are. Yeah.
This was a huge release, a big thing, and it bombed. I remember.
It did not do well. Yeah. And Crocodile Dundee 2 has some fun moments in the Australian outback, but it does the last third of the movie does play like a slower paced, second rate Indiana Jones movie.
Yeah.
It's nothing,
You should check out the poster for a very excellent Mr. Dundee if you want a good laugh at some point, because it is it's cringeworthy, especially when you see like some of the, it's got some talent in it, but it's not. I've never seen it, so I shouldn't say anything, but it does not,
I just saw the poster. That is hurtfully bad. It's like, oh, the magic is gone.
Yep.
This is the 2021. This is obviously, yeah. Oh my God, John Cleese is in this.
Yep. Chevy Chase. Oh wow, they're like, you can tell that they just are like, let's put all these people together and make us a comedy. Yeah.
Man, that's a little a little sad.
Wayne Knight, Reginald Vell Johnson. Oh my God. Anyways.
You can tell just looking at that poster that the whole concept of the movie is gone. Like it's just like, hey, remember Paul Hogan? Here's another one. Yay.
Yeah. All right. So Ellie, why don't you share with us what you have been watching? Give us a couple titles.
Luther, I See You, and The Boy, the Fox, the Mole, and the Horse.
Oh, I've heard great things about that.
Luther is a franchise, correct? Or is it based on a TV show?
I think it was. This is a movie, though. It's not a series. It's actually a movie with Idris Elba, and I think it is a franchise, but I don't think this is meant to be a franchise. This is a movie, a whole movie, and freaking loved it. I freaking loved it. I love serial killer movies. I don't know why. I just do. That's
you
why
said that very ominously. You're like, I love serial killer movies. I don't know why. I've got 10 bodies in my basement. Shh, don't tell anyone. Yeah.
I really loved, the other serial killer there that was just recently out. What's the name? Dahmer too. Oh
yeah.
It's the weirdest thing, but I don't like horror films like bloody shed, really gross ones. But when it comes to psychological horror thrillers, I'm in there. And Luther is basically a really great film. I loved it. And John Luther is a cop, and he goes to jail for stuff that he did that wasn't kind of corrupted. And then he breaks out of jail and goes hunting for this serial killer who's horrible. But I loved it. So I truly I enjoyed that. And then I saw I See You. It's on Netflix. Let me see. Luther is on Netflix.
So
I See You is on Netflix.
Luther is this is a film, but this is also based on like a sequel to it was a TV show.
Yeah.
That also stars Idris Elba. This is created by Neil Cross. So this is a British novelist. This is a well-known entity. So did you watch the show or the series?
I did not watch the show. I did not watch the series or the TV show. However, you don't need to watch the show to watch the film.
That's what I want to know, because I was hesitant to push the play button on this, because I feel like I didn't have the foundation.
No,
because I
really
love
don't.
Idris Elba, but I was like, I should feel like I should catch up on the series before I jump into this.
Even, because I did not watch the show. I jumped right into the movie because it was something to see. There was nothing else that attracted me, and I love Idris Elba. I love his acting, and you don't need to watch the show. Just jump into the movie. You're just gonna thoroughly enjoy it.
By the way, the show is only 21 episodes long. It's not that long.
Where's the Prime?
This might be Prime. I forget.
Because I might want to see it now, just to see it, because I loved it so much. The movie. So it's on Prime.
I don't know offhand.
I'll check it out.
Let's find out where it is, because it's not like it's. Even though it's like several seasons, it's not like it's some incredible amount of content that you can't catch up on. It is 5 seasons, but it's only like a few episodes a season.
Okay.
But I'm now that you're recommending this, I might like to go back and check this out.
I totally
because I'm hearing really good things about this movie.
Yeah, they did a great job with it, and
so I'm sorry, Ellie. So besides Luther, what was
I
the other
watched
thing?
I See You on Netflix. Helen Hunt is the only actor I knew in that film, and it's again horror thriller film, and there's a twist to the film. I'm not gonna give it away. I'm just gonna say I also enjoyed it. Yeah, watch. If you're up for horror and thriller and psychological, I would recommend I See You. And basically it's about this, just gonna give the gist of it. It's a family, and it's about how this teenagers, not I don't think they're teenagers, like college kids, end up going into their home, and they end up living in the top floor of their house, and they don't even know they're there, and things start to disappear, like the forks and spoons, the utensils disappear, photographs are disappearing from their frames on the wall, the TV goes on and off on its own. So different things begin to disappear, and they're like wondering what's going on. Like the family is wondering if they're losing their mind. But there's and her husband, the cop, it's actually pretty corrupted. And I'm not gonna say anything else, but I'll say if you have free time to watch and you're looking for something to watch, I See You is a good movie. It's gonna kind of make you feel like. After that, I went to go check my doors to make sure there's no one else is living in my house. Right. I'm like, wait, is it possible that people could do that? If you have one of those big mansion homes that has lots of rooms, my house is tiny. If you have one of those, go check the basement, attics. Yeah, you never know who's living in there. Woo! Okay, right. And then the boy, the mole, and the fox. No, the boy, the horse, the fox, and the mole. 30 minutes of your time. It's a animation film, short film. It got an Oscar for Best Animation Film this year. It's just lovely done. The whole thing, the storyline. It's like somebody took a bunch of quotes. There's a book, actually. It's based on a book. And it's all these quotes turned into a film. Basically, and it's
everything I've seen about it looks amazing. I've seen little clips. It's beautiful.
It's how these three, the horse, the fox, the mole, and the boy, these four entities, living beings, create a friendship, an unexpected friendship, and they travel together in the search for the boy's home. And then when they finally find the boy's home, the boy says, "Oh, you know how when people say, well, your home is where the heart is."
Right.
So it ends like that. So the boy realizes that he had his home all along. It was the other three animals. Lovely film. The children will enjoy it. Grown-ups will enjoy it. Yeah, can't go wrong. 30 minutes. Apple TV.
Great. All right. Well, that's what we've been watching this week. It is time for us to get to our featured review of John Wick Chapter 4.
Saying goodbyes?
Saying hello.
You think your wife can hear you?
No.
Then why bother?
Maybe I'm wrong.
You're going to die.
Maybe not.
Goodbye to you, my trusted friend.
A new day is dawning. New ideas, new rules, new management.
We've known each other since we were 9 or 10.
Who is this?
The Marquis de Gramont. Challenge him to single combat. Win or lose, it's a way out.
I don't sit at the table.
Your family does.
Please pray for me. I was the black sheep of the family.
A man has to look his best when it's time to get married. Or buried.
I'm going to need a gun.
Goodbye, my friend, it's hard to die.
If you win, the table will honor its word. You'll have your freedom.
Under the old laws, only one can survive. Failure to meet at sunrise will result in execution.
Last words, Winston?
Just have fun out there.
That was part of the trailer for John Wick Chapter 4, the latest edition in the John Wick saga, which just came out this past weekend. This movie, I think, grossed $73 million at the box office this past weekend, and another $68 million worldwide. That is it's extremely impressive considering how this franchise started in like 2014 as a real low budget film that
amazing. Yeah.
which was almost went straight to VOD and has blown up to this gigantic franchise. And I was looking at Box Office Mojo earlier today, and every single movie from John Wick to the sequel to the third one has pretty much doubled its box office intake. It will be pretty impressive for it to double it again with this fourth movie, but man, it is destroying it at the box office again. So wow. And
Amazing, yeah.
And I'll say only about 4 or 5 hours ago, it hit the Hollywood Reporter that they actually are now opening up the possibility of a fifth movie because this movie has been so successful. And we'll get into it in spoilers in a little bit, how that will be interesting, how they may do that. But I'm not surprised when a movie is this successful, because, just back up that money truck to Keanu's house. I'm sure they'll find a way. But let's get into this movie. This was quite the film on so many levels. Anyone here would like to start with their thoughts on Chapter 4?
I'll start by saying I highly enjoyed it. I saw the first John Wick in the theater back in 2014, and have been a fan ever since, and have seen every release theatrically, and I liked it a lot. I would say that the set pieces and the energy in this film were truly spectacular. And without giving anything away, I really like the fact that the story in this film acknowledges kind of the fact, what more can John Wick do? When is your vengeance going to end? What is there left to, when will you be, satisfied? I will say in general, and this is again spoiler free, not going into any action sequences, John Wick 3 and 4 are very close to me. I'll say that 3, what I loved about it was the unpredictable action, a fight in a library and out in the streets and with motorcycles and horses, and that whole scene in Casablanca. For me, 3, the first hour of 3 still has that kind of benchmark of just sugary action that blew me away. But I will say that I'll say that 4 might have a slight edge on 3, because 3 starts off really strongly, then I find that the conclusion evaporates a little bit, whereas this film really comes in strong at the end and has a spectacular story. So over and all, I enjoyed it a lot. I would say that it has sort of like John Wick 2. I noticed that this one was very heavy on the neon sets and kind of lighting, and I always like it when John Wick action goes out into the streets and outside. And so some of the action, whether it was in Berlin or the hotel in Osaka, it was although it was really good, I found it a little repetitive. That's why, without going into spoilers, I'll say the climax really helped me enjoy the movie a lot, because it finally went out into the streets of Paris and was in that open world where I think the action for me gets more creative. But this is the kind of film, the structure of which I can enjoy multiple times. I just thought it was pretty damn impressive. Action, an incredible action movie. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
Agreed. Ellie.
Yeah, I loved it. I love Keanu. Anything Keanu does, I'm gonna watch because I'm an obsessive fan of Keanu. I love him. And I think maybe Keanu wants to cut his hair because why would they do a chapter 5? Now he can't cut his hair if they do that.
Right.
But I'm thinking like, wow, they're gonna do a chapter 5? But I bet you he doesn't want to. He needs to cut his hair. But I love his long hair. I loved the film. I loved my favorite two is chapter 1 and chapter 4 for sure. I like 2 and 3, but there was there was more emotion for me in number 1 and more emotion for me in the last one. That I got so teary eyed at the end. I did.
Yeah, 4 really nailed the his like character arc, and like 4. That's why 4 was a much more consequential film than 3.
I'm curious how recently, 3 came out in 2019, right?
It did, yeah.
Have you seen it since then? Like, did you do any prep work before this movie?
I have seen it since then, not like in the past few weeks, but I saw it like in 2022.
Okay. I think one of my problems is, and I'll get to my thought. I'll let you finish, Ellie, but I think one of my problems is that I've seen I've loved all of these John Wick films. I think I've loved each one more than the one prior to that, but I've never gone back to revisit these. And I don't know why that is, just because I watched so many movies and I haven't just done it. But I forgot so much of these films, and I forgot, where did we leave off in John Wick 3? And I did not remember. It has been 4 years. So
4 years and a pandemic to help make the third film recede far away.
I felt so long ago since I was in John Wick's world that I was like, anyways, I wish I had taken the time and maybe watched at least John Wick 3 prior to this. I felt like I needed some knowledge going into this movie. Anyways, Ellie, I didn't mean to
That's okay.
Keep going.
I live in John Wick world and the Matrix world. I live and breathe those worlds. So I will consistently watch Keanu franchise like 2 months ago or maybe 5 months ago. So right now I'm watching Matrix 1 again. So yes, and compared to 3 and 4, and I mean 2 and 3, number 1 is always going to be my favorite, and then now number 4 for all the obvious reasons, because it was so really well done, and I like the storyline.
Yes,
the movie. It was very touching. I was at the cinema at 10:30. I actually went to the 10:30 a.m. show.
Oof.
I did not want anyone to spoil the movie with their voices in the cinema. So I didn't want anyone.
Everyone was asleep by then. Right?
Yeah, everyone's sleeping except for my son and I, and there was no one around. And we have this huge cinema because it's the one with the Lux and Dedham, the one with the surround sound.
Great theater.
And I just, at the end, I'm just like crying. I'm like, oh. Anyhow.
I saw it in quick comment. I saw it in Providence Place IMAX, and the opening when Keanu Reeves is like punching a
dude.
He's the sound was so loud on that. I was like, stop it, stop.
Yeah.
Bam, bam.
It was the same. Let me tell you something, guys. Watching Creed a few weeks ago, watching Keanu this time around, all I want to do is go and fight. I just want to hit something. I want to do martial arts.
Pent up rage, Ellie.
Box.
You said that before. You definitely have some pent up aggression when it comes to me. I'm like, I just want to watch Star Trek with some friends, and you're like, I want to go out there and fight, and take on the world, and
I want to take on the world. I want to be the new superhero. 5-foot superhero over here.
But I hear you, because the energy of those movies is inspiring.
Ridiculous.
I saw the 9:55 p.m. show, and when I got out, it was so dark, and it was all dark corridors, and just the world of that movie, I felt like I was going to get shot by someone. The second I walked out, I'm like, oh my God, I'm still in the John Wick movie,
Well, and another thing, my son has the John Wick haircut style.
Oh, cool.
I
Yeah.
kid you not. Like, and then I went to go buy him the whole suit that, how he wears the black suit. So
Yes. Yep.
I went
The
to go get
famous
him
suit.
this
Yep.
suit, and I'm like, he looks like John Wick. Maybe he's done.
I
awesome.
tried that look, but my hair just gets afro-y. It just doesn't work. My hair is curly. That's the problem. I can't
Excellent
pull it
film,
off.
though.
I can't pull it off. Anyways, I'll share my thoughts, and then we'll get to spoilers. And so I was saying, in the very beginning, I think it's just funny how far these films have come. It all started with the killing of his dog. If you think how simple
Yeah.
this was.
How
John Wick's
dare
this
you?
ex-assassin who was minding his own business in this film. But what I love is just the world building that has been created by this team of filmmakers is just mind-blowing. I love the attention to detail in every scene of these films, especially this one. It's absolutely gorgeous. The production design, the sets, the costuming, the props, the blocking, the cinematography, how these locations are meticulously lit. This is simply one of the all-time best looking films I have seen. It's exquisite looking. Dan lends this film, and Kevin Cavanaugh was the production designer in this. And I can only hope that they are not forgotten when awards season comes around, because they deserve a lot of consideration. This might be one of the best looking films we have at the end of the year. I can't imagine it wouldn't be.
Yeah, it's visually spectacular.
I
Yeah.
agree.
The fight choreography, I'm not saying anything that nobody doesn't already probably agree with or know, is, as already mentioned, is mind-blowing. I mentioned a few weeks ago in that Keanu Reeves IGN interview, stunt work needs to be recognized by the Academy. This is
Absolutely.
This is on a whole nother level. And after 4 films, they are still managing to surprise me with things I've never seen before in this franchise and in any film. The set pieces where these fights take place are so unique and memorable and visceral. It's never just one thing going on in these action set pieces, which I think is so special. This isn't just a fight that's going on. There's multiple layers happening in all of these fights. I think back, and I'm not spoiling anything here, but like I think of the club scene that's in Berlin, how that is designed and staged. I've never seen anything like that before. We'll get to that in spoilers, but I can't imagine the prep work and the preparation that goes into creating a scene like that. A few other quick thoughts. I did think that this movie did take a little bit of time to get going plot-wise. There was the first probably 15, 20 minutes I thought were, outside the opening moment. He is punching that thing in the beginning, but I thought it did take a little bit of time for it to get going. But after that, it's full steam ahead. But it did take me a little while to start vibing with it. And I think it's because I was playing catch up a little bit. I completely forgot almost everything about the third film. I honestly did. I wish I had done the prep work.
See, and that's a good point, because I remember the third film relatively well, but I agree with you about the beginning. The way the third film began, I don't know if you remember this,
Sam, I needed previously on John Wick. I needed
the third movie opens where he's excommunicado, and like every single hitman and all of New York City is after him, which the opening like half hour of John Wick 3 is wall to wall creative, insane action where they have a fight in like a knife store. Then he steals a horse and he's on a motorcycle. And this one, the fourth one, I felt the energy took a while to get going. But I
agree.
One comment that I'll say really quick, what I loved about 4 is that I remember 2, and speaking of gung fu, there's a big action scene in Rome in John Wick Part 2, which is good, but I was really aware of the staging where one gunman was coming around a corner at a time for Keanu Reeves to dispatch with like plenty of time in between them. And I liked how the fourth film did a better job of it still fell into that trap a little bit, but he was ganged up more on this one.
Well,
I
instead
just
of
don't-
one,
yeah.
it's two gunmen at a time. Because
Yeah.
Dude, no, actually, you guys, I don't agree with neither one of you, because I think that for me, it makes sense that they slow it down at the beginning, because it gives me an entrance as to what's happening and what's going to happen and why.
Oh, I'm sure it's perfectly fine. I'm just saying I wish that I had done my homework ahead of time. I wish I'd watched the third movie, because everything that's going on with Winston in the Continental, all of the conversations that he's having with who's the Bill Skarsgård character, Marquis.
Yeah.
Everything I found myself kind of playing catch up with what was going on and the history with who he is and what's going on with that. I found myself kind of like, what is going on here?
And like, I didn't mind playing the catch up. For me, it was interesting because the third film starts off just like so high octane. It's almost like Saving Private Ryan, where that opening is so spectacular that the movie after it is good. But it's like John Wick 3 peaks early, and then the second hour is good, but not as good. Whereas John Wick 4 has the opposite effect, where it starts off at a slow burn and then it peaks at the end, which ultimately makes it slightly richer movie because you come out of the theater more like lifted. Anyway, yeah.
So I'm not complaining. I'm putting the blame and onus on myself for not going in with the. I actually, what I could have done is also read a plot synopsis of the third movie too, just to familiarize myself. It's on me. I'm not complaining, but anyways, and there were two other characters that I feel their introductions were handled maybe a bit clumsily. I love Donnie Yen in this movie, and more Yen.
Donnie Yen was amazing.
He is amazing.
He's
and
awesome.
there's another character that's introduced, Shamir Anderson's character of the Tracker, who I'm going to get into it. I have some major issues with his character in this movie.
Wait, which one was it?
The Tracker.
Oh, okay.
And the way that his character, his arc is, we'll get to that. But what I want to say is I thought it was a little clumsy how both of those characters are brought in. I think it could have been better, but we'll get to that. But anyways, Yen, amazing in it. We'll get to him later on. And he's just great in all Hong Kong action films, especially the Ip Man franchise. If anyone here is listening, check those movies out. They're incredible. And plus, I wish he was in more American films. You know, we got him in one of the best Star Wars films, Rogue One, but I don't think there's really much else he's been in here in the States. But I love him, and I wish he was doing more. Why don't we get to spoilers now?
How did you feel, guys, about the? I'm curious. How did you feel about the? I love the action scene in Berlin, and I love the scene inside the Osaka hotel. I guess I just missed. I kind of like it when the action gets outside a little bit more, because when they're on the sets with the neon lights, you can feel, even though the staging is amazing, everything is controlled. Did that ever feel repetitive to you, or is that just me? Because I felt that a little bit in this movie, but I will say only in parts, because overall the choreography is just pretty damn spectacular. You know what I mean? I really like the variety of the action in John Wick 3, and it was here in this one. The sequence in the hotel and the sequence in the Berlin nightclub, they seemed similar to me visually. You know,
I didn't get that.
Yeah.
I didn't get that feel at all. I mean, I thought each fight scene, I think there was four, there was probably five, but there was four unique fight scenes that I think were so visceral and memorable to me. I don't remember so much about the first one, except for when they show up with the arrows and they shoot him and he catches the arrow in his hand.
Oh, that was awesome. Yeah.
That was
Marco.
But
Marco Serrar, he speaks Spanish, I think.
He was incredible as the top henchman in the movie. I loved his role in this. But that was like the first fight, which was the lesser of all of them. I thought that whole scene in the hotel, but when we got to the gallery scene, I thought was excellent. I liked the neon gallery, I'm calling it, scene, but I thought the nightclub scene was unbelievable. Unbelievable. That rain coming down.
Oh my goodness. That scene.
And plus the Scott Adkins who plays Killa, the car dealer, what he did in that role was just otherworldly. I love that. We have to talk about him for a second. This scene is probably maybe my top 2 or 3 favorites in the film. Scott Adkins, he's under all those prosthetics as a German gangster, giving us this performance that rivals one of the greatest all-time Bond villains, I think. The setup of the scene is you got Kane and you got John Wick in the tracker. They're at this card table is great. The details.
Wait.
Yeah.
Scott Adkins was the guy in the purple suit.
Yeah.
What the heck?
He looks like he's 300 pounds.
Seriously?
Yeah.
I thought that man was actually that big. Oh my God.
Well, good prosthetics. Yeah.
I know. And you've got him in the tracker at the card table. And as I was saying, the details are what make the scene so memorable. You got that fan above them casting this large looming shadow, and it's rotating over them. It's creating this tension. And then when the fight breaks out, this chaos ensues, and the fight choreography here is just stellar. You got the water raining down on them, the clubbers in the background who seem oblivious to all the violence going on around them. And clearly they're high on whatever the hot European discotheque drug of the week is, I wouldn't know, but I just love the fact that all this is going on and they're just raving out of control with not a clue of what's going on. And that's what's great about this world, that John Wick's world is happening and the rest of the world just goes on oblivious to what's going on in this underworld.
Unless they give you money.
And the same holds true for the scene at the Arc de Triomphe, where those cars are driving around in circles and they have no clue of the violence and the chaos that's happening around them, and they're just driving by taking out these guys, and the world just goes on. And
that Arc de Triomphe scene was like spectacular. And when I was talking about like repetitive, it was only a minor it was just a minor comment, but overall I thought those action scenes are spectacular. I think I was just so enamored.
I wasn't getting tired.
There's a scene in John Wick 3 in Casablanca where there's like 2 German shepherds and it's like this violent rooftop fight. Yes. And like John Wick, there's something about John Wick 3, its action is so, it almost abandons the gun fu a little bit and it's just very, very brutalized and out in the streets. And I thought that was so kind of wild. Whereas I felt that the action in this film went back to that more kind of stylized tone. But I will say that I thought the club was great. I really loved the Osaka beginning. And for me, what made it was the climax of action in Paris, because I didn't know that was coming. I thought it was just kind of narrowing down into this like tiny one-on-one fight between the two of them. And I was like, no, please, I still need more. And that last 45 minutes gave me that mayhem that was really present in 3. You know what I mean? And so I thought that whole sequence was spectacular.
You really like 3, huh?
I do like 3 a lot. I think 4
like 3 at all.
I think 4 is better, but 3 was just 3 just seemed like unhinged kind of. But 4 has more. I think it's because of just the way it sort of used the streets of New York creatively. Whereas I liked 4 a lot. 4, I was just more aware that I was like on the inside on beautiful sets nonetheless. But it felt more like a indoors disco club movie. It reminded me of some action sequences in John Wick 2 a bit more, even though I still thought it was awesome. Like that comment is just a comparison that I drew in one specific moment, but overall I was like insanely entertained.
Are we in spoilers now?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, okay. So I can say something that really hit me with this movie was the very beginning when what's his name? Lance Reddick,
Yes.
uh, uh, dies,
Yeah, that was
and
rough. Yeah.
it was really hard because knowing that he just passed in real life,
Yeah.
how that hit differently in the movie for me. It hit me differently because it was like, we know he just passed, and in this movie he dies, and they kind of say goodbye.
Yeah, and
Winston says goodbye to him.
it was painful because like it was such a surprise that he died in real life that
Yeah,
the shock of him dying in the movie has a more kind of painful effect
it
because it like
does.
Yeah.
It
triggers that
really
feeling. Yeah.
does. It really
It
did.
does.
Did
And
for
I was
me.
disappointed that we didn't have more of him in this movie because of that. It was a shock. Although
And
we are going to get him in, I think, a significant role in Ballerina next year, is my understanding.
and what about Bill? Bill, I freaking loved every outfit that they gave him. I was just checking him out. I'm
He's
not
so good.
I'm not replacing him with John, obviously, but he is so good, and the outfits that he wore, I was like, oh hello, that looks great, and he did such a marvelous job at playing his character, and how he
He was
just drink the tea or the coffee, and how he ate everything. It was
The
I
just
loved
mannerisms
like
were great.
how like evil he was too. I think in general I kind of like it when like you're saying, Nathan, when John Wick action spills out into the real world. Like there's a scene in the John Wick 2 where he's like having a shootout with the Weeknd in a subway in New York, but they're shooting at each other with like guns with silencers. So they're in the middle of a subway having a shootout, but the gun audio is silent and everyone is oblivious to their fight.
Yes.
And I like it when it spills out into the. That's why I like that club scene so much, because the club in Berlin was also well introduced because I didn't know it was back there. You just thought it was like that guy's crazy like Bond villain office. And then when he like goes back behind the office, there's a whole nightclub scene going on behind him, and I had no idea it was there. So that was like a surprise.
I also enjoyed the humor in the film. There's and obviously the doggy.
I love the dog. Yeah.
Oh my God, the dog.
There was some good humor in this movie. And there was a couple humorous moments that I don't know if they were supposed to be humorous, but like I got a huge laugh out of. This is at towards the end of the movie where John Wick is fighting for his life to get up the top of those stairs, and then he is punched and he falls
my
down
God.
those stairs like Homer Simpson, rolling and rolling and rolling, and then it was like, this is funny, then it's not funny, and then it gets funny again because he's going all the way, keeps rolling.
I felt okay. I was exhausted watching him.
I was at a packed theater. The entire theater laughed. Like as if we were at a comedy.
I know, but it was funny to see him rolling down. He like, just made it.
And
to
that's
the
a
top.
real, like those steps, like that church, all that's real. Like there's like
Yeah.
200 steps that go up to it. Like I love that they use the real place.
That stunt man. Oh my God. I mean, like that guy is rolling. Like
He's
down
rolling.
like 100 steps.
And that scene, like talking about spoilers, like clearly John Wick 4 is a pretty spectacular climax to the series because like unless they've got a trick up their sleeves, John Wick is dead. Like he has died at the end of that movie. There's a character arc. You see the grave. Unless if they have a John Wick 5, they can pull some rabbit out of their ass.
Well, I don't know,
Like,
Sam, because I told my son the way they said, when he asked him, like, where do you think John is, in hell or heaven? And then when Winston, is it Winston? Winston says,
Right.
who knows where he's at? To me, that line
They
just
left it
kind of
open-ended.
told me like, open-ended. Like, are they doing another John Wick? Is he saying that he's not dead?
The studio wanted the director to do 4 and 5 back to back, and more power to him. He said he really wants to do one film at a time because he said if he was shooting a John Wick 5 back to back with 4, he said that John Wick 5 would feel like John Wick 4B. And what he means by that is the same cinematographer, same lighting. If you shot them too close together, he felt that the fifth movie wouldn't stand alone as its own vision. I totally respect and understand that, and I think
too.
that he and Keanu Reeves get together and they have like 20-year-old single malt scotch and they discuss possible ideas for the next story. So maybe there'll be a 5.
Before we wrap this up, I just want to mention a couple things here, and because I know we want to get through this. Can we talk about a character in this film that I'm wondering what your thoughts are on this? We have the character of the tracker that is played by, I think, Shamir Anderson, who I felt kind of conflicted about his role in this movie. You know, was he necessary? It seems his main purpose in this film was to keep John Wick alive and ensure his bounty kept increasing so he could eventually bring him in later. You know, once or twice I think he saves his butt, but I feel his arc was mostly unnecessary, and he's a character that could have been condensed down or not really in this movie at all. I had some issues with it. What did you guys think of his character?
I liked his character, but I know what you mean. He was kind of like, he seemed to do everything for his own advantage, because eventually he's like, I'm going to kill John Wick myself and take the money. But I mean, in terms of his presence in the movie, I liked him. I totally hear your point. The thing is, without him, there wouldn't be the dog, and that's why I like him.
Well, I'm only saying this because there were a lot of characters in this movie. Like there's a lot.
It's funny, and there were, and as much as when listening to this podcast, as it sounds like I'm praising John Wick 3 a million times, I do honestly think John Wick 4 by a margin is the better film than 3, because you're talking about all these, so many side characters and lots of characters in this movie. 3 goes into that almost a little too much, and it's about the high table and the nature of power. Like that guy in the desert that Keanu shot at the beginning is like the leader of everything, and that was a part of the three plot line. But this was focused,
and I missed that because I probably wasn't familiar enough with 3. I totally missed the whole deep meaning of killing the guy in the beginning. I think I realized that he is the guy in charge, and he says he kills me. And by the way, he said something that was, I think, the statement of the movie, or the statement. But basically, he says, "I think only peace and death for you, John." He pretty much prophesizes the end of the movie.
Yeah, and so he was great, and I just like 4 is more focused in terms of like the narrative ending. And Donnie Yen, I wanted to say that scene where he's like eating, and the other guy's like, "Come on, man, you got to start fighting," and he's just like sitting there in the corner enjoying a snack. Yeah. And then he gets up and like half-heartedly joins the battle, but he's so incredible at what he does. He kills everyone. I love that scene. Yeah.
Oh, Donnie Yen was so good. And, I think we should wrap this up, but I think before we do, the post-credits scene, did you guys stick around for
Yes, of course. Yeah.
And I honestly couldn't make heads or tails of it. I was like, that was cool, but what? Like, I didn't get it.
Well, I think, if anything, it means that we're going to get more Donnie Yen.
Yes.
In this franchise, somehow, some way, which I don't know in what capacity, but that makes me happy.
I'm all for John Wick 5 if they want to do it. I love the set pieces, I love the structure, and it's like the Bond franchise where the pleasure in it for me is seeing how the films compare to each other, how the action sequences are, the structure of the movie. I love these types of films. Yeah.
Even if we don't get John Wick 5, if the world, if our country embraces, if anything, just embraces Donnie Yen as the badass action star that he is, and he gets more work here, then this is a victory unto itself. That's
victory
all
unto itself. He's amazing. He's awesome. And if this is the last John Wick, it is a pretty damn satisfying conclusion. Like that. If John Wick never comes back, that is a good ending right there,
Okay.
Totally agree.
I think let's end it there. We have gone over a lot of this. I think we've all liked this film a lot, or loved this film a lot, and
we can't say enough of it.
Cannot say enough of this. Everyone go out there and check out John Wick 4. It needs your money.
Let's talk about Cabin in the Woods again. Or not the cabin. Yeah, I'm just kidding. Yeah.
It needs your money because let me just say something.
I got the title wrong. That's how little of an impression it made him. Anyway,
yeah. Keanu Reeves will use a lot of that money for charity. we know he will do that. So
Right. All right. Let's move on to our next topic, and I'm calling an audible here. I threw this on our little agenda last minute. So a few weeks ago, we had our little Oscar game, and I won, I should say. And I've been thinking about what I'm gonna choose to have you
no.
guys watch.
Oh, this is gonna be a punishment.
It's
can already tell.
you know, I could be really, really mean to you guys.
There's an evil twinkle in his eyes. I know this is a podcast, but I can see a video of him right now. He's evil.
I'm gonna take the high road. You know why? Because I know what it would be like if I didn't win, and I'm gonna be good. So
Land Before Time 6. Just kidding.
No.
That was a good one, by the way. They go to Snowy Mountain anyway. Sorry. Yeah.
I don't know if either of you have seen this. Sam, I think there's a chance you have seen this, knowing that you're such a fan of this director. But I am going to assign to both of you, if you haven't seen this, to watch this movie from 1989. It is from one of our greatest living directors, living or dead, but he's living right now. And it is one of his most underrated gems of all time from 1989. This is the movie called Always from Steven Spielberg.
I knew you were going to say that, and I have seen that film. Yeah.
Well,
what's it called?
I can't believe when you said 1989, that was the first movie that popped into my head. I saw Richard Dreyfuss like flying the plane through fire, like immediately. Yeah.
I want to talk about this, even though you've seen this, Sam. I figured you had, but this is something that I think will be a great discussion because it's one of Steven Spielberg's most underrated films.
Wait, I missed the name of it. What's the name of it?
It's called Always.
Oh, Always.
From 1989. I'm not calling this film a masterpiece. However, I think it's an incredible film with a warm, emotional, and comedic performance from the cast. If anyone that listening to this hasn't seen this, it's basically about pilots who put out forest fires. Extremely dangerous work. It's a loose remake of the 1943 Spencer Tracy film, A Guy Named Joe. I haven't seen that film yet, but I intend to someday. It's got a great performance from Richard Dreyfuss. Holly Hunter is so charming and lovable in this film. As a young teenager, I think I fell in love with her watching this movie. And John Goodman offers both levity and gravitas in this film. This film has action, romance, and a great score from John Williams, of course. The cinematography from Michael Solomon, who in 1989 was having a hell of a year. He also shot The Abyss that year.
Oh, wow.
So we're all going to watch Always and review it on this podcast when we have an open date, hopefully in the next month or two. But we'll talk about when we'll do that. But that's the movie that I am assigning for us to discuss.
Well,
I'm excited to see that because I have seen it, but it's been a while. And I just remember like Steven Spielberg, no matter what level of quality of his films, like of course the plane photography and the suspense, it's like he's always amazing with stuff like that. Yeah.
I think it's a beautiful film, and I'm always saddened when I hear that it's really thought of as a lesser film of his, and I think that's unfortunate because I think if anybody else made that movie, it would be considered a great film. Because
it in summer '89 was like Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. All I remember is it came out in December of that year. Mm-hmm. I don't think it did well at the box office.
It tanked.
It tanked, didn't it? Yeah,
it did.
Yeah, too bad.
All right, I just added it to my list of 40 other films that I want to watch.
Well, this is going to the top.
So now I have 41 films.
Yeah.
All 39 of the other films, it's all fight training videos. It's just Eli training to fight.
Are either one of these any good? Sir?
What?
Are either one of these any good?
I don't watch movies.
Well, have you heard anything about either one of them?
I find it's best to stay out of other people's affairs.
You mean you haven't heard anybody say anything about either one of these?
Nope.
Well, what about these two?
Oh, they suck.
All right. So let's move on to our next segment, the recommendation shelf, which is going to be films about gun fu.
What else?
Based on our theme of this week, reviewing John Wick Chapter 4. So, and I already kind of got a head start watching Better Tomorrow from earlier this week. So I'd like to hear what each of us have to offer as a recommendation. Who would like to begin?
Sam.
I don't know if this is you had mentioned this earlier, Nathan, and I don't know if you'd recommended this, but the movie that I was going to recommend that came to my head that maybe the same one is Face Off. Because I was 16 in the summer of 97 and I saw that. And though it's not quite gung fu because it's a John Woo film, it still has that kind of like close ballet, gunfire, like in close proximities, that kind of style. But it's also over the top. And there is something about that movie that entertainingly works on every single level to me. As ridiculous as the concepts are, you just go with it in that film. The John Travolta's performance is amazing. Nicolas Cage chews up scenery in the most spectacularly entertaining and excellent way. And again, it's gung fu-esque. It's not full on gung fu, but it's got that John Woo directorial influence and a lot of like slow motion. And just I saw that in the summer of 97 and I absolutely love that movie. So I strongly recommend Face Off. And I know this is Nathan was talking about this earlier, how these are his American films, not his roots, but it's not gung fu. But if you watch Broken Arrow, that is a fun mid 1990s and early 90s action movies have a high civilian body count. For some reason, they don't care about killing like peripheral characters, and they're very mean about it. And whenever you see that in the movie, you can tell it's an early 90s movie. And Broken Arrow is no different, where like some guy is camping by himself and they like shoot him and he falls into the campfire. And the first thing the bad guy says is like, "Oh, that jerk is going to smell bad. Get him out of here." I'm like, yep, no regard for human life. 1990s action film. But yeah, Face Off, Broken Arrow, good stuff. Bob's your uncle.
All right, so that's Face Off. That is, I think, just on VOD. So yeah. All right, Ellie, what do you got?
For me is Atomic Blonde with Charlize Theron.
Good pick.
Why the gun, Delphine?
You're not as well disguised as you may think. I know who you are. You're Lorraine Broughton, MI6, and you're here because of the death of Gascoigne.
What do you know about Gascoigne?
Nothing. But if someone is killing Allied officers, shouldn't we all care? Whatever's in that list has people willing to kill for it. It's my first assignment with the French intelligence. I've only been here a year. I'm scared, okay? I got into this because it was exciting. But it's never been like this in Berlin.
You should have become a poet. Or a rock star.
Oh my goodness. Charlize Theron is one of my favorite, actresses, obviously up there in my top 10. And after I watch her on, what's that film? It's not Mad Max, but what's it called? She was in that film.
Not the Mad Max movie.
No, it wasn't, but it was kind of like the Mad Max.
Two Mules for Sister Sarah? Was that
Ian Flux?
Ian
No,
Flux.
oh my god, no. Come on, you guys gotta know these. Oh my god, what's the name of it?
Monster?
No. Oh my god.
Wait a minute. Was it
Monster. She did a great job in Monster, by the way. Oh my
She was great in Monster. She wasn't in DuckTales the movie. No, okay, just wondering.
You know, I'm in the mood for fighting, so yeah.
Oh boy.
I better not encounter you anywhere on the street. I can't think of the movie right now. I might try to Google it and see if I find it. But why Atomic Blonde? She's so bad. Can I say ass?
Yes.
Okay.
You can.
You
did. After you
I just did. So she was so badass in that film that I loved everything about this film, from the music to the colors. I mean, there's some blue hue colors on her face and then some red. And then she's just the car scene. I love scenes where women take the wheel and race and look badass. And she's basically like a John Wick, but only a woman, in my opinion, in that film. I'll just say, if you like badass women, if you like films where there's badass women saving the world or having some kind of impossible mission, and spy films, this is the film to watch.
Okay.
Or espionage. Yeah.
Okay.
And the music is from the 1980s. So that's really cool.
And that is available on VOD. And Sam, did you say Two Mules for Sister Sarah a moment ago?
I did, yeah. I just want to see if anyone was listening. Yeah.
Dude,
that film has nothing to do. I was trying to pick random movies I was trying to throw you off to derail you to see if you'd know what I was talking about. Yeah.
I should have picked that movie to watch.
You know,
anyways.
I mentioned Two Mules for Sister Sarah and DuckTales the movie.
Oh my God, remember DuckTales? Oh God.
Oh,
woo! All right. My recommendation for this week is Kate. Kate is a female assassin. The movie is about a female assassin. Ooh. This is from director Cedric Nicholas Troyan and writer Umair Elim. I probably completely botched that name. It stars Mary Elizabeth Winstead as the titular character, who, in my opinion, never disappoints no matter what role she is doing. She's been one of my favorite actresses for quite some time. The plot is very simple. Kate is an assassin who has been poisoned and has 24 hours left to live to find out who her killer is before she dies. So it's this great race against the clock with some great ass kicking. Now, the badass female assassin is obviously nothing new, and for the most part, the story is kind of conventional. But man, this film is just a heck of a lot of fun. Winstead gives a rather fresh spin on the role. It has some entertaining, well-done fight choreography. Woody Harrelson co-stars in this, giving what you'd expect from him. But what it comes down to is that this film is extremely competent and technically solid. And I had a real blast with this. It's very violent and gory at times. It's paying homage to a lot of other films like La Femme Nikita. And depending on how you look at it, it's also paying tribute to great film noir films like DOA, I'd say, is another film that it reminded me of. So if you're into assassin films laced with some modern noir, then this is right up your alley. So Kate is streaming currently on Netflix.
Hey, why'd you poison me?
I only followed this.
From Kijima?
木島さんおめえ親分と話したのか話してるわけないじゃないですか Please
Where is Kijima? How do I get to him?
Nobody knows
All right, same question, same deal.
You killed him! He is
He's dead. You worry about you.
You crazy! I don't know!
武器を捨てろクイズが死んでもいいのか
I'm gonna ask one more time. Where is Kijima?
Last chance. Breathe. I don't know.
Actually,
By
I
the
want to see
way,
that. Yeah, and I liked Woody
found it.
Harrelson's competent and technically good performance. Sorry.
It's Woody Harrelson is doing Woody Harrelson. He's not the reason to watch this, but it's a fun action film, and it's got that whole like neon like 80s vibe kind of going for it, and it's fun. It's fun. Yeah.
Guys,
That's
I
good.
found the movie. It's called Mad Max Fury Road.
Oh, yeah. I was thinking that. I thought you said it
Yeah,
wasn't Mad
it's a great
Max.
movie. Yeah.
Right, you're right. Sure, you are. And that Tom Hardy's in there, and
Oh, yeah.
she's so badass in that film
Oh
too.
yeah, that film is amazing.
If I were into females, I would date her in that.
Now that movie, I would argue that this is just my personal taste. Two totally different styles, two films that have nothing to do with each other. But in terms of action, I would say that the action in Fury Road is still more spectacular to me overall than the action in John Wick 4. Totally different films, apples and oranges.
Really? Yeah,
That's my say. Yeah,
It's very different action.
yeah,
It's
but
very
like
different
so
action.
different. It's not fair to compare it, but it's yeah.
All right.
Wrong comparison, Sam. Sorry.
That's true. I made the wrong comparison. I
Yes,
actually
you
have a
did.
letter of I am resigning.
You are now fired.
Here's my letter. I have to go to podcast jail.
Yeah. No,
I'm so sorry.
We're going to put you in the corner.
My apologies.
All right. Before we wrap up, I'm just going to mention a couple of the current releases, and you can tell me if any of these strike your fancy here. We've got coming out in wide release this week, Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Among Thieves. This is the latest from the directing team of John Francis Daly and Jonathan Goldstein. Their last film was Game Night in 2018. This new film is based on the nearly 50-year-old tabletop role-playing game. This new adventure stars Chris Pine, Michelle Rodriguez, Justice Smith, and Reggae Jean Page. I hope I said that right. I don't know. And Hugh Grant's in this. The plot summary on IMDb states, a charming thief and a band of unlikely adventurers embark on an epic quest to retrieve a lost relic, but things go dangerously awry when they run afoul of the wrong people. Dungeons and Dragons.
You know, although I would normally not be interested, I've heard nothing but positive buzz about that movie, and that surprises me, actually. Only positive things. Yeah, I've heard people say good things. I've heard like on Twitter some people that I like respect. So I am curious to see what the reception towards that film is.
It doesn't fancy my tickle. Okay.
I am going to write that one down. Ellie, it doesn't fancy my tickle.
Nope.
Not even the Chris Pine factor, huh?
Not a fan of Chris. Yeah, no, not even.
Doesn't fancy.
Although I do love Michelle Rodriguez.
She's good. Yep. Yeah. All right. Also coming out in wide release is A Good Person. I don't know if it's a spiritual sequel to A Good Dinosaur, but anyways, this one has Florence Pugh and Morgan Freeman who lead this cast and is directed by Zach Braff. Someone's still letting him direct movies. This is a drama about a woman named Allison whose life falls apart following her involvement in a fatal accident. I don't know much more about that, but this was, I think, originally in limited release and is going wide. And coming to Apple TV Plus is the original feature Tetris. The story of how one of the world's most popular video games found its way to players around the globe. Businessman Hank Rogers and Tetris inventor Alexei Pajitnov joined forces in the USSR, risking it all to bring Tetris to the masses. This is directed by John J. Baird and written by Noah Pink. So it seems like Hollywood is mining every nook and cranny for that IP. 2 movies set around the world of gaming in very different ways. Though.
Super Mario Brothers is coming too.
Yeah, so we've got Dungeons and Dragons and Tetris. And Super Mario Brothers coming.
Yeah, none of those tickling me.
Well, I am interested in Tetris. I am.
Yeah, maybe Tetris. I kind of I'm. Is it on VOD or?
That's on Apple TV Plus. It's an original Apple TV Plus movie coming.
I might want to go with Tetris.
Yeah, because you don't have to leave your home.
Of course.
Yeah.
I'm only gonna leave my home when it's really worth it to watch.
Yeah, right. So that is what is
Super
coming
Mario.
out. Yeah. All right.
Like the Minions movie. I will go see that.
So far, Dungeons and Dragons has a 90% critics Rotten Tomato consensus. Just to let you know, I'm telling you, I have no interest in it, but like it's because of I may watch it because of other people saying it's good because like I want to see why they like it. Yeah,
I'm going to consult with my son to see if he likes what he thinks.
An infectiously good-spirited comedy with a solid emotional core, Dungeons & Dragons Honor Among Thieves offers fun fantasy and adventure, even if you don't know your HP from your OP, and I don't know what that is, so
what the?
I can still enjoy it, too.
Did either of you remember the Dungeons & Dragons movie from the year 2000?
I do, but I remember nothing about it, just that it exists. Yeah.
Jeremy Irons, Bruce Payne... terrible. It's got a 3.6 on IMDb. I remember this was considered a terrible film. I never saw it. I was told to avoid it like the plague. So anyways.
Yeah, I know nothing about it. Otherwise I would, yeah. But I mean, I knew it existed. That's about it.
It's never been done right. So I used to play. Anyone here play D&D? Ellie, seems like your thing.
What?
I played I had 2 phases where I played D&D when I was maybe 7 or 8 years old. Maybe it was 9 or so. And then I had some friends in college that started a D&D club where I played for a couple weeks, but I never really stuck with it.
Listen, I only play with those little plastic figurines that were cowboys in a little plastic bag. There were like cowboys and Indians in them. You guys remember that too? I used to play with those. I was not.
It's like the little army men.
Yeah, like army men too. I played with the army men too, the green ones. Yeah, like, I was not a Barbie doll little kid. No. I was like race cars and soldiers and cowboys and and so no.
Yeah, that tracks. Yeah.
And then I play a little Pac-Man here and there. Tweet, 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 tweet. No.
Okay. Let's wrap it up. I think we should have some mercy on our audience and let them go. All right. Well, thank you for tuning in to this week's show. Back to the Frame Rate is part of the Weston Media Podcast Network. Please subscribe, rate, and review on iTunes or Apple Podcasts. You can follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Back to the Frame Rate and on Twitter at Back Frame Rate. We need to get a better handle sometime. You can email us directly at backtotheframerate@gmail.com. I'm also excited to share that we do have a website where you can find all of our past episodes, and I'll drop that in our show notes. So that's it.
They let me eat pizza on this show. I like it.
Right. Goodbye, everyone. Have a great week.
Bye.
Woo!
I want you to know it's over.
Well, bye.